Hey friends, Darren Bailey coming to you with another informational episode. And I really want to thank you again for tuning into these shows. And if you've got ideas of some neat programs and things that information that might be good to kind of spread the word, spread out there, send me an email, Darren@BaileyForIllinois.com, and we'll certainly take a look at that. So today, I'm blessed to have with me Barry Adair. Barry is the CEO and General Manager of Wabash Communications Co-op. There's a lot of good things here in Southern Illinois, and especially right here in Clay County and in Louisville. One of the things that we're blessed with and have been blessed with from day one is an amazing, what started off as a telephone co-op, now has turned into a broadband provider. So here in little old Clay County, we've had fiber for quite some time, and Wabash is doing an amazing job of staying on the forefront and keeping us provided. So, Barry, thank you so much for being here with us today. If you don't care, just start off, tell us a little bit about yourself. What have I known you for? You've been here for 10 years plus?
9 plus.
Okay, all right.
I just turned 9 years in June.
Okay, you came here from Kentucky, and what's your background been?
I've been in telecommunications industry since year 2000, so I've got 23 years in the industry. Seeing everything go from the copper lines, and we used to give internet over the copper lines, which used to be called DSLs, but the last 10 years, everybody's went to the fiber to the home technology, and there is no limits on the bandwidth you can get on that.
All right.
Type of technology.
Wow. All right. Well, Wabash has been, even when I was on the school board at North Clay, we were one of the first schools to be able to, have internet. And, gosh, that's been 20 plus years ago. Yep. And I've just always appreciated. I had a bag phone long before anyone knew what cell phones were, but just because of the innovativeness and the leadership at Wabash. So I'm just blessed and honored to live here in this spot. And tell us. So I serving for 4 years. Served 2 years as a state rep, 2 years as a state senator here in Southeast Illinois. There are several things I'll never forget, but one of the things that really stick in my mind is one evening about 3 years ago, had a meeting down by a Carmi, and this meeting was in the library, and the meeting was like an 8 o'clock in the evening meeting. So I show up at the library, and I see some of the tables filled with students, young people, and I didn't know if those young people were attending the meeting and just waiting and they were all, it became evident that they were, doing their homework and doing schoolwork. And I inquired with the librarian. I'm like, wow, you guys stay open late? You got a lot of people love to read. This is kind of amazing. She said, well, actually, we're open so they can have access to the internet, because these students, and there were 15 plus students there. Yep. Their homes didn't have access, and literally in White County at the time, they either came to the library or they went to McDonald's where it had some sort of access. So that was kind of an eye opener for me, and I became a proponent for rural access. Yep. But then we find out here in rural Illinois that it costs a lot of money to bury this, and when you have a mile stretch and maybe just one or two people, we have to sometimes think of alternatives. So if you don't care, explain the structure where we are today and where we're going and the pitfalls and the of broadband. And maybe even explain broadband. Just explain how this works.
Yes, initial technology was the copper lines and copper and coax cable, and even fixed wireless. The more people you get on the network, it'll bog it down. The latency gets so, like in the old days when people would between 6 and 9 o'clock, their internet would slow down, was because everybody was getting on. They're getting home from school, getting home from work. And with fiber, you don't have that problem because it's just a straight throughput, and it doesn't give you lag in the speeds. And stuff. And before COVID hit, we knew rural areas were lacking technology, but it became a big issue during COVID because everybody got sent home, had to work from home, had to get school work from home, and even in our school district, North Clay, we had some areas of our district that wasn't served by Wabash, it was served by another provider, and we had to go get some hot spots and put them at those houses just so those kids could get internet. The school district had to do that. So it's been a hot topic in D.C. and the state, and it's one of the few things both parties agree on.
Yes.
It's one of the very, very few things in our country that we agree on this broadband right now. So, but when you get in the rural areas, excuse me, it takes a lot of money. I mean, depending on how many houses you have and the distance, I mean, some houses may cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and it's just not the drop. But when you count the main line, the infrastructure, and all the routes to get back to the hub or the central office, it costs a lot of money. I mean, just like in Lewis, like we overbuilt the town of Alma way before COVID, and them numbers work better than trying to build out rural Clay County. We have a couple of spots left in rural Clay County that like east of the Dietrich Blacktop area and then southeast of Clay City. We got a Connect Illinois grant to do Clay City, Cedar Springs. We've got a Community Connect grant to do Northwest Clay. We're trying to get grants for the rest of Clay County and Wayne County. We have a lot of customers in Wayne County. We have them in Marion County and Edwards County and Effingham County. We have them, we've expanded a lot the last 6-7 years. So there's a lot of rural areas that don't have hardly anything. They get fixed wireless through the satellite, but it's basically better than nothing right now. So it's just one of those things. I don't think there's enough money to get it done. It's sort of like back in the 30s when everybody wanted electric line, and then it went to the 50s when everybody wanted a telephone line. So now we're to the point everybody wants broadband.
Yes.
Reliable broadband.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Earlier this spring when I was in the fields, I pulled up this big old cable and I had cut it in half with my tool, and I knew that about the copper lines, but sometimes here in southeast Illinois in the fields we'll pull up oil pipe or something else. Well, that's the first time, and I saw that and I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? And so I called Wabash. Was one of the first calls I made. So you sent someone out and they looked at it, and sure enough, it was just an old internet line that had been now replaced with fiber. So
we turned down our last copper telephone lines probably last quarter last year. So we're completely fiber technology.
Okay. All right. So what are we looking at in the future? I know, like you said, we have, I've got some locations that I have, wireless, and gosh, when the weather's wrong, even when the wind's blowing, and especially when raining, you lose service and you're limited. What are we looking at? You talked about the cellular hotspots. What's the distant future? Is fiber optic? How long is fiber optic going to be here before we're talking about satellites? What are we looking at?
I know fiber. We've got fiber in the ground since I think the early '80s, and we're still using it.
Okay.
So we really don't know the end of life on the fiber. As far as cellular, you have to have like 5G. Everybody thinks 5G is that, but you got to have a tower about every half mile.
Okay.
So that's why the interstates, it works good, or the highways. But when you start getting off in the rural areas, can you imagine the number of towers you'll have if you're going every half mile? So, and then satellite, you have some latency issues. Same thing. I mean, it works as long as you don't have a lot of customers on it. But once you start building up those, I call them access points.
Yes.
They start getting full, it'll start slowing down. You have some latency issues. So I know USDA has a lot of reconnect funding out there, and we've applied for grants in the past. We've gotten some. We have one in Wayne County and Jefferson County we're building right now. We'll finish that up this year. But there's a law in there that taxes the grant revenue. So they're sort of punishing you if you get these grants. So I think he got slipped in back years ago, and they're trying to get it out. I don't know if we'll get that legislation overturned. That's the federal level.
That's what that was my next question. Was that state or federal?
That's federal.
So, okay, that's interesting.
Yes, it is. But we're a cooperative, so it's a little bit different dynamics with that. So it's
Well, explain a co-op because we're blessed again, as we were talking earlier here in Clay County where I live. We've got Wabash Co-op. Our Clay Electric is a co-op. Just for the people out there listening,
I think Wabash started in 1952, and it's comprised. Right now, we have it's approximately 4,000 members, and basically all those 4,000 members own the co-op. Then they elect a board of directors, and that's who I report to, and they're the one that puts out the vision going forward for Wabash Telephone Co-op.
All right. So any member of who's receiving service from Wabash can apply and run for the board, and they are the ones. So much like corporate America, where people get frustrated and concerned about where the money goes, with a co-op, it pretty well stays here to build infrastructure and serve the people.
Correct. We try to keep it local. Our mission is to deliver the best customer service quality products to our members and customers.
All right. And maybe you have a better example, but for Southern Illinois, and like I said, I have found out this problem exists all over the state. It even exists in Chicago.
Yep.
But let's take Clay County, and I don't know, a lot of people don't realize how small our communities are down here. I think the last count I had, there were around 13,000 people that lived in Clay County.
Yep, that's about right.
What percentage would you say of Clay County, if you were just a guess, is adequately served with fiber optic running to the home?
If you go by the population, I would probably say 70-80%.
Okay, so 20% of the people are still here in Clay County with where we have. Okay, so 20% of the people. I mean, and I may be we're jumping to something here if you don't have the answer, but if you were to guess, then dollars, if we were to get fiber optic to the rest of I just kind of want to put this into perspective because I know I assume it's a pretty big figure. So that the 20% of the people, the 2,500, 3,000 people left getting into those homes, what kind of rough range are we talking about on money as far as getting it into those homes?
Well, we applied for a grant, so years ago, I'm probably saying, since the cost of living, I'd probably say $6 to $10 million.
Yeah, 6 to 10. Wow. Oh, nope. That's exactly. I figured. Okay.
It's just a big area, is what it is. So.
Yeah. So in the meantime, the solutions that exist are cellular hotspots. We're still relying on basically wireless, which is okay. And how adequate are there places? Let's say Clay County, Southeast Illinois. I know there have to be because I experienced that when I'm driving. There are probably places that are hard to even reach with good cell coverage.
Correct, it is. I mean, you've got some spots you can't get cell coverage. Or it's not good at, especially if you go inside in the house or the building. It just has trouble getting through to that. So.
All right. Is Wabash do you still have ties with the cellular coverage, or
nope.
did you okay? You're out of that.
We're out of that.
All right. I remember, like I said, I was appreciative years ago of when when Wabash made an investment.
They was into cellular business, and the powers that be sold it. I don't think Wabash wanted to sell the interest in it, but it was in a partnership, and majority wanted to sell it. And then when we sold it, the AT&T and Verizon would not let us open a store back then for whatever reason it was.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, that's the powers that be. That's what we have to deal with sometimes. So Wabash Telephone. I know you guys go by Wabash Communication. I still call it Wabash.
Well, legally, that is our name is Wabash Telephone.
Okay,
we're just
all right.
in the DBA now.
So. Okay, so how does that? What are your the landlines? I still have a landline at home, but man, I received a phone book here some time ago, and that phone book was just a skeleton of what it used to be. What is the future of the landline versus cell?
Well, eventually, only people probably gonna have landlines is your businesses because everybody knows the business number. I mean, probably 90-something% of the people 95 have a cell phone now. So, that's where it's headed. The broadband's the big driver in our business now. So.
Okay. So going back now, looking at businesses and education, are our schools adequately served now with broadband? I mean, when I was on the school board 20 years ago, we were always outgrowing immediately whatever it was that was available. Is fiber optic?
Yeah, I think North Clay, we deliver a gig to them. I mean, we could deliver a 10 gigabit pipe if we had to, but right now the school hasn't outgrown that need yet. But some schools are. Some of your bigger school districts are needing 10 gigabit internet.
Can you explain that? The gigabit, the terabyte,
that's
to someone listening that
it's like a bandwidth pipe. If you got a gig, it might be a small, but if you have a 10 gig, it gets really big. It allows the users to get on and off the network quick, just like if you were getting 100 meg at your house and you had a bunch of devices on it, you were trying to download Netflix videos or YouTube videos, it would be slower. If you bumped it up to a gig, it allows you to download it quicker and it doesn't tie up the network.
Okay.
It just, some people think they don't need the faster speeds, but a lot of people take them because everybody wants it now. They don't want to download a video for 5 minutes or even 3 minutes. They want to do it in like 20 seconds or 30 seconds.
Yes.
So
yep.
You understand it.
Oh,
Kids and grandkids.
Yeah.
It's like instant. So.
Yep. So the megabyte, the gigabyte, the terabyte, that's a measurement like ounces and gallons.
Terabyte is like, that's like store. People use that term when they store. It's like storage for your storage servers. But the gigabytes, it just keeps going. We got a 100 gig capable network right now. We can pass 100 gig traffic through our network, just around our central offices and out to the outside provider, outside world. That's where we get our bandwidth.
Okay.
So.
All right. So little old Wabash telephone, Wabash Co-op that started off kind of right here in Clay County. How big is the area now?
We're in Effingham, the city of Effingham to the north, which we have a route going up to Windsor now to a school. We serve a school up there. As far as going west, we go to Sandoval. We have the school at Sandoval. We're in Salem. We're in Fairfield. We're in Mount Carmel, Flora. Because Louisville, Sisney is our co-op area. Edwards County, we're in Albion, West Salem. The Browns, Bone Gap exchanges in the co-op. As far as south, I guess south would probably be Fairfield. We go south of Fairfield. We got a grant area south of Fairfield to like the Interstate 64 down to there, the tip of that, going down 45. East, we have some businesses in Albany. We have Bridgeport, Sumner. It's just a huge area.
Are you still growing, or are you?
Yeah, we're just basically growing off our main lines right now. We have a lot of main line out there. We're just where the numbers make sense. The board has a certain payback policy, and if we meet those numbers, we'll just keep growing.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you talk about a main line. I do remember that's something. What is the obligation, or how does that work? For instance, when I found out that Carmi, had the issues that they had, then I found out that many times, whether the hospital, the sheriff's department, the government units, what's the rule of thumb there? Is
on the anchor, they call them anchor institutions. I ain't gonna say every school and hospital clinic has fiber technology, but it's a high number. Our providers in the state have probably done a good job trying to get all the schools connected, the hospitals, the clinics, the courthouses. It's just, you try to make it work because everybody knows they're our safety, relies on that. Need of urgency, getting out the reports or whatever, or speed of getting first responders to where they need to be. So, I mean, it's very important to keep that network going. So.
Yes. Okay. So when you say a main line, what does that mean? Would that qualify as main line, or are you talking about a main line that reach?
Well, just like we run
customers.
We run a main line from Louisville. We run it through Bible Grove, through Effingham to Beecher City. That's the main line, and we start spurring routes off of that to go serve houses and customers.
Okay,
So,
there you go.
yeah,
All
we're in
right.
Dietrich. We're in Dietrich and Effingham, Jasper County, Cumberland County a little bit.
Okay, all right. When you consider the competition out there, what are some other? Are there a lot of little companies throughout Illinois, or are there some big? What's the competition? What does that look like? The servers across Illinois.
We have 8 co-ops, telephone co-ops in Illinois.
Didn't
Up
know
to
that.
the north, and it's not. We don't cover a huge area, but then you have some independent telcos, anywhere from 1,000 customers to 15, 20,000 customers. They serve areas, and then you have your AT&T, Frontier, CenturyLink. They serve areas too, and the bigger guys have been, I guess they just haven't. They've been reluctant to put the fiber to the home technology in the ground. They're doing it now, but they probably 10, 15 years behind everybody else doing it. And you have your cable providers, like Comcast, MediaCom, Charter. So and you got your fixed wireless guys, that try to help serve rural America too.
Okay.
Then you got the satellite providers, HughesNet and Starlink. Tesla does that, or Elon Musk does that one. So.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
What are you looking at? What's the big thing on the horizon for the future that's the consideration?
Just don't keep our network reliable, dependent. Like I said, we have 4 outside routes going to Chicago, St. Louis, and Indianapolis. And, if we just, God forbid, something happens, like a terrorist action, but at least we hope, if something ever happens, fiber gets cut, we can move the traffic to another route. And that's one thing that our board is very concerned about is service reliability, customer service, our techs, making sure they're trained properly to get any outages up and going quick, make sure the customer experience is the best it can be. As far as the future, we're going to keep looking at the grants, trying to expand into where the numbers make sense. Basically, when you get out in rural areas, you've got to have a 90% or more grant to make it work. It's
Okay.
because you're looking. If you don't, you're looking at 10, 15-year payback on your investment.
Right. It's like anything else. You got to
some
make
of
money to keep the doors
20,
open.
Yeah, some of them's 15 to 20. If you do, it just depends. If you borrowed all the money, 100% loan, you might take 20, 30 years to get your investment back. So,
Okay.
and that's why USDA sees that, and they've come out with these programs. NTI, they call it the BEAD program. They're throwing a lot of money. That's a 75% grant, and it's just going to be hard to make it work.
All right.
75.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate hearing that. So, consumers listening to this podcast today, and they live somewhere in rural Illinois that they don't have service at all or adequate service, who do you recommend? Do they talk to their state representative, the state level? Do they go to the congressional level? Where?
Both.
Okay, there you go.
And also, FCC's come out with a broadband map. I think it's FCC. You can just Google FCC broadband map and put your address in, and then it pulls up these service locations, and there's a little setting over there. It tells you whether it's servable to 25 meg down and 3 up. And if it's not, you can go challenge that location. The resident can, or the consumer can go challenge it and say, hey, I can't get reliable broadband. You need to put that challenge in.
Okay. FCC
broadband
map.
Yep.
That's a new one. I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, yeah.
So
in our world, it's like our Bible right now.
Okay. So obviously, the co-ops and the businesses are, you want the work, so you're obviously always petitioning this, trying to get the money because you probably know where you need to go based on where the consumers are at.
It's like embedded in our brains at work, and we know because these customers come to when you come in, it's like, well, we're trying to get a grant. I mean, it's just we can only do so much,
And that was definitely as people would come, and especially here in Southeast Illinois, I understood it very well, and it, like much of everything else, boils down to the money.
It boils down to money. I mean, if we got $100 million grant, I don't think we could finish up Clay, Wayne, Effingham, Edwards, Marion County.
Wow.
Or Jasper.
Wow.
I just don't think it would even cover that.
All right.
It's just it's a huge area.
Okay.
I mean, you've been around.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're from
Yep.
this area. You know how
Right.
big it is.
Yep.
I mean, when you get out of the towns and villages.
Right. All right. Anything that we didn't cover that you want to bring up?
Cannot think of anything. No.
All right.
Guess not.
Well, Barry, I know you're a busy person, and I appreciate your family's service to Clay County. Your wife served as mayor in Louisville for some time, so to move up out of Kentucky to here and to get to work, to be busy, serving the community, that's been amazing. It's an honor to call you a friend, and I appreciate you coming in here and just explaining a little bit more. And it's still whenever people talk about broadband and megabytes and gigabytes and terabytes and what all that means, we take so much for granted that it's just I can remember years ago whenever when internet first hit and of course having the children, my sons were in junior high and buying those computer games, which many times it consisted of getting online to play. That was back in the mid 90s, and you would sit and wait sometimes for 5 minutes for things to download or to be able to make your next move, and gosh. And it was okay then, and to wait for 30 seconds now seems to be forever. So
it's like, remember reading emails, you'd have to wait for the page to load when you look at your email. Just
that's right.
It had to come layered down. It's amazing how far we've came.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds. And thank you for coming in here
Thanks
today.
For having us in. So.
Friends, I want to thank you so much again for tuning in and to sharing these messages. And it's an honor to just bring you more information as I learn. That's been my journey in this role of government. As I learn, I want to kind of share that knowledge with you so you become more knowledgeable and understanding of the process and especially the people behind the scenes sometimes making things happen that we so often take for granted. So send me an email, Darren at baileyforillinois.com if you've got other ideas or suggestions. And until we meet again, God bless you and thank you so much.